Good morning, everybody. How is everybody doing today? Good? Fantastic, fantastic. No, it was a great start, and Loic and I, we thought we'll take some time this morning talking about, artificial intelligence. There is a lot of buzz, so we thought let's make it real, and that's why Accenture and Novartis came together to talk about what are we doing in this space in terms of, saving human lives. And more importantly, what's the right approach? What's the pragmatic approach of driving artificial intelligence in a global corporation? And that's what Loic, my friend, is going to talk about, what he's driving. So what we thought today, we heard the opening keynotes talking about artificial intelligence and the impact of that into German economy. What we believe, where we are today on artificial intelligence is kind of moving on from just being experiments and to really becoming exponential. And why do we say so? It's because there are multiple forces that are in play. First and foremost, I think the combinatorial effects of technology that we are seeing in the space of AI has significantly enhanced in the last 5 to 6 years. Along with that, the data around our business, around our processes are growing at an exponential rate. Right? And that's creating amazing opportunities that was not possible a few years before. And added to that, I would say that the computing power that is available today is almost unlimited, and that makes us to do things at speed, at scale. And the investments are following as a result of that. The startup investment in AI since 2010, and we did this research for all the G20 nations, has been growing 9 times the overall startup investment globally that has happened in the last 7 to 8 years. What we are also seeing is that the number of AI patents are growing significantly. And not just in US, but in UK, in China, in other parts of Europe, in France, and other places. And then more importantly, what we are seeing is when we speak to a lot of our senior business executives, each of them are talking about AI investments in one or the other areas in the next 3 years, which means that there is a fundamental shift that is happening. It's moving from experiments, it's moving from ring-fenced efforts to really something big at play. And that's something my friend Loic is going to talk about, what's happening at Novartis. So what does that all mean? When we talk about artificial intelligence, it's a big buzzword. There are so many things around it. It's a constellation of different technologies and capabilities, but where do we start? And we thought, this could be a nice picture for all of us to think about, that it's not just about technologies. It needs to start with what are the business applications that we are trying to, empower within our companies, within our organizations. It could be business applications around virtual agents, right? Driving personalized interactions with our customers. It could be around, how do I bring intelligent automation to drive more effectiveness? Or it could be around intelligent products and services that we bring to our markets and open up new opportunities. And those intelligent capabilities in our applications need to be powered by a combinatorial of different disciplines, from machine vision, from machine learning, from natural language processing, that helps us to comprehend, that helps us to analyze, that helps us to actually do forecasting and optimization of different constraints. And then at the heart of that is actually machine learning that enables all the algorithms, that enables self-learning systems so that you can actually continuously take these intelligent actions. And that's the way to think about an end-to-end. It's not just a technology play. It starts with applications powered by different capabilities with having a learning system at the heart of it. What does that mean for healthcare, in general, right? And this is the research that we have been investing over the last couple of years. And we believe that the promise is in 2 broad dimensions, when you talk about artificial intelligence. It's about how you drive automation and you combine that with augmentation of human capabilities across the different parts of the value chain within health and life sciences, right? That helps in providing better treatment quality as well as better patient outcomes, and which is so important for all of us as human beings, right? And that's my personal take is where we see the maximum opportunity as we look into the future. This is the space, right? And this depends on 2 broad axes, axis around data, right, and the complexity of data. And then the axis around, what's the complexity of the work? How much of that work is human judgment oriented, and how much of that is routine, right? And then based on that, you can create opportunities which ranges from driving efficiency growth, with respect to, for example, patient appointments, automated patient appointments, right? Efficiency example. You take it to a different horizon around how to drive expert advice, prescription advice, right, for patients like you and us, right? Or prescription advice to doctors to enable them, the young doctors, to be much more intelligent. Or it could be around innovation, innovation around biomedical research, innovation around drug discovery, right? And how do you bring new drugs into the market at speed, at scale? And that means that when you look at health and life sciences in general, it enables creating new opportunities in terms of how to do things differently and how to do different things. And some of the examples I wanted to share, these are real life, in action, AI-enabled businesses and functions. Biogen, the first one that you see there, they are actually passionate about neurological disorders. And they are using artificial intelligence enabled by quantum computing to do accelerated drug discovery. A very important part of drug discovery is molecular research and how to create new advanced molecules to direct the best therapy for the patient. And that's hugely computational intensive. How do you bring AI and quantum mechanics in addressing that? That's what Biogen is doing. It's doing things differently. You look at Boston Scientific. They're in the business of helping heart failures. They make the stents that go into your heart, right? If you have a heart surgery, heart failure. And this is a big topic. Heart failure is one of the most expensive categories of diseases. Across US and in Europe, 2% of the healthcare spend is on heart failure. And that's what they're trying to address with a new business service called Advantix to help healthcare providers in a cloud-based AI solution to understand their patient population and how to provide personalized services, care services to the patients when they are in the hospital and when they are outside the hospital so that the readmission rates after a heart surgery is minimized. And then Roche, back home here, right, in Switzerland, they are passionate about cancer research and how to help oncology care teams in making decisions around what kind of tailored treatment should be given to the cancer patient. And they have launched an AI-enabled cloud-based platform called Navify to enable that. And then back home from where I come from in India, National Association of Blind is working on something very path-breaking called Drishti. Drishti means vision in Sanskrit. And India has the largest number of blind population across the world. And they are actually creating mobile phone-enabled AI assistant to help blind people see things. By that, what I mean, it's about using combination of natural language processing, natural language understanding, natural language generation to help people understand, saying that, hey, a blind person walks in, get a view of how many people are in this room. Is there a bottle lying next to me, right? If there is a book, the machine helps to read out what's the book and what's the title of the book. Things like that. If there is a monitor kept, it kind of gives a signal saying, hey, there is something in front of you, be careful, right? And those are the new possibilities that is opening up, to help human beings. So I just wanted to share this. These are examples of AI-powered businesses. And we have seen that there are some common themes around these AI-powered businesses. They are not stuck in the old world of rule-based processes. They live in what we call as the living process, a living business, which is the loop, that you see here. It is a loop. It's a self-learning loop, basically, that is powered by data. That is, these organizations believe in the power of data and are looking at structured and unstructured data. These organizations are constantly focusing on driving automation and augmentation of human capabilities, right? There is a unending passion around that. They are focused and they believe in the culture of experimentation. And that's something, Loic is going to talk about, how they're driving it in Novartis. And they believe in network effect. By that I mean, this loop that you see doesn't recognize organization silos, and that's so important. And obviously, it's about being responsible to the corporate and the social ethics and building trust with your solutions. I think that's extremely, extremely important to drive adoption. And this creates new possibilities, for life sciences. Right from the time when you're trying to build the next generation blockbuster drug to save the mankind, to how you enable, clinical trials in a much more efficient and effective manner and bring these new drugs into the marketplace across different disease therapies. And then as these drugs are into the market, how do you constantly monitor them so that you can predict any kind of adverse events that can happen and you are prepared to address that, right? And then as these drugs are coming into the market, how do you enable precision medicine? So that, depending on me as Arnab, what's the kind of medication I need? What's the kind of therapy I need that is personalized to me to maximize the health outcome? And that's where it leads to better disease management and create longevity in human lives. So that's the potential, for life sciences companies, and it creates new outcome opportunities, right? Right from optimizing the core of your business, gaining efficiencies, releasing capital, and then investing that back into your business to create new opportunities, new growth opportunities. And the word growth is great. New product opportunities, new service opportunities, opening up new markets. And for that, you need top leadership commitment. You need to be very focused. You need to create a new culture of how you drive these things, not just in pilots, but across 20 different markets in Europe, in Asia, in the US, and do that at scale with passion. And that's the story my friend Loic is going to talk about in terms of what's the difference he's bringing in Novartis. So with that, Loic, I give it to you.
Thank you, Arnab. So I think we are coming from a very traditional industry, So I think in the pharma world, I think we research, we develop, and we commercialize drugs. And we find a drug and we put it on the market. We are having that drug on patent protection for many years. Now we are seeing in the industry that data and AI have transformed several sectors. So this morning we heard about Tesla transforming the automotive sectors. We talk about Uber, transforming the taxi sectors. We talk about Airbnb, the hotel sectors. But I think the change is also there as a pharma industry. And I think we are in an area of unprecedented change, and change becomes the norm. And you either act, or the market will act and make you change. And I think let's talk about the context, So the pharma industry, we have more and more people. And the people have a life experience which expands. So they need to get a different medicine and they need more medicine. At the same time, the governments, the payers, the insurers, they ask us to reduce the price of the drugs and also wants to pay based on outcome and based on efficacy of our drugs. It is more and more difficult to discover new drugs, and it costs more and more money. And of course, a lot of our blockbusters are becoming a patent expiration, so our profit and our sales decrease. And what we also see is that our patients require more personalized medicines. And we also see a lot of digital IT companies coming into the healthcare industry. So think about Amazon or Apple or Google. They all have an healthcare business. And they enter in this business and they want to take market share. They believe, I think, their digital space, will help us to change this industry. So what do we do at Novartis for that? So we have a very difficult equation to resolve. How do we transform a traditional organization into a digital organization? And how we remain competitive over the long term? And we've decided at Novartis, to become the #1 healthcare industry that is powered by data and advanced analytics. We want to be the #1 digital organization in the industry by 2022. So if you have such a vision, the first thing you need to have is you need to have leaders that embrace this vision. And not only they need to embrace this vision, but they need to communicate your visions. And what you can see on this screen, the picture of our chairman and our CEO. And they publicly and repeatedly communicate how important is data and artificial intelligence for the future of Novartis. They believe that AI and data will help us to drive the new set of productivity. They will help us to drive and create the new medicines. And they will help us to give more outcome for our patients, our customers, and our shareholders. So it's great to have a vision, but a vision is not good without a strategy. And at Novartis, we have a 5-year strategy. That's what we call our digital ambition. And this digital ambition has 3 main pillars. The first pillar is innovate. So we want to use the power of data and artificial intelligence to discover new drugs. We want to have the data and artificial intelligence to help us to provide personalized medicine to patients. But we also want to generate more revenue. And there's the second pillar we have is a sell. So we want to be better at commercializing our existing product and our new product. And finally, we want to improve our profit. And the profit goes to our shareholders. So we want to have a better operation. So we really want to look at how do we operate our backbone systems and our operating procedure in a more efficient manner. So when you have this strategy, I think you need to have enablers. And I think the enablers are people, processes, and technology. So when you look at AI and digital, you need to have new processes. And the processes start with two things. It starts with culture. You can only be successful in the digital world if you change the culture of your company. And I think it's very important that I think you're enabling your people with the right culture so they can drive the change. Second, I think you need to be entrepreneur. You need to have risk-based approach. You need to be able to fail fast. You need to have continuous deployment. The third, you need people. This is a very scarce market. It is very difficult for a traditional organization like the pharma industry to attract talent. But you don't only need to attract talent, you need to think about your existing workforce. Novartis employs 120,000 people. Not many of them are ready to become digital people. Finally, you need technology. And the technology you need to think about enterprise scale. You need to think about interconnection of your enablers. And what you can see on the right side of the slide is actually what we think about what are the enterprise enablers that will help us to succeed in this new digital world. So now we have a vision and we have a strategy. So where do we think at Novartis we can make the difference? So there's two areas where I really believe we can make a difference. I think we can look at what we call digital optimization. So we can actually improve our supply chain network, we can improve our manufacturing processes, we can automate our financial forecast, and we can speed up the cost of our clinical trials. At the same time, we think we can discover personalized medicine. We can give access to our patients to do remote trial monitoring. We can discover diseases through image recognition. And finally, we can also better commercialize our product. So we can increase the engagement we have our HCP, and we also can increase the adherence of our patients to our drugs. If you think about adherence, 80% of the patients, they never finish a treatment. And when they don't finish a treatment, in 50% of the case, they become sick again. So if we can help our patients to actually complete their treatment, then we can go back and give values to our shareholders and our community. So now I want to take a deeper step and give you two examples on where we're actually applying data and AI and where it transforms our organization. So the first one is actually in drug development. It takes about 10 years to develop a new drug. And the cost of developing a new drug is in hundreds of millions. And Novartis owns the largest clinical trial database worldwide. We have 30 years of clinical trials. And we can use this data and use artificial intelligence with that data to improve our clinical trial development process. And we believe that by using the data and artificial intelligence, we will be able to reduce our clinical trial cost by 25%. So how do we do that? So first of all, I think we can actually use and predict, where we need to enroll our patients, in which site we need to select when they go into clinical trials. We can look at patient populations and for particular molecules where we think it is best to enroll the site. We can look at the previous issues we had when we run clinical trials and the quality we have with the hospitals. And we can also use that to make a risk-based analysis and try to actually fasten the clinical trial process. Second example that I have is how can we use artificial intelligence to increase top line? So I think our public company, I think the objective we have is to get more revenue and more profit for our shareholders. So how do we do that? So we believe we are visiting 100,000 healthcare professionals every single day, and we are recording those visits. And when you record those visits, you must ask yourself, do I visit the right customers? Do I and do I visit them at the right frequency? Do I have the right targeting messages? And if you use this data and artificial intelligence, you can do two things. A, you can better segment your HCP, and you can have more targeted recommendation in terms of frequency of the visit and messaging you want to have. You can optimize your marketing spend, and this all results in additional and improved drug prescriptions. So these are two concrete examples that we are running today at Novartis. But if you want to come into AI, you need to have talent. And I think AI requires new skill sets. So the question you have is, I think, where do we find these skill sets? And what do you do with your existing workforce? And what's the best operating model that you have to get when you enter this world? So we have, at Novartis, we have an approach with three strategies. So first of all, we look at hiring process. So I think we have identified key roles that we don't have or we don't have enough of in the organization, and we are focusing on attracting them. Right? So I think we are looking at hiring data scientists and data engineer, experience level, but also coming from academia and universities. The second thing we are looking at, we are launching a big training program. And the training program has two aspects. The one is a cultural change. Right? So we are changing the culture of our employee so they actually use data and artificial intelligence to take decisions and not just gut feel and legacy historic perspective. But we also use a training academy to retrain our existing workforce. So we are identifying the potential technology switches, and we put them into a training program, and we put them in secondment with experienced resources, so they can learn and apply their learning, and then become the future data scientist and data engineer. Finally, you need to work with a partner ecosystem. I think the traditional ways of doing IT, when you work with one partner, is no longer. You need to work with strategic partner and complement with startups and academia. And you need to become the orchestrator of these ecosystems. You don't need to do everything yourself. You don't need to do everything with one, but you need to be the orchestrator of the ecosystems. So these are my advice. So if you get into AI or data, the first thing you need to do is to prioritize. We have too many industries that have been trying to do too many things and don't deliver anything. So think big and start small. Prioritize where you want to invest. Think about cultural shift. We have too many projects that have not succeeded, not because we have not delivered a good solution, but because our organization was not ready to conduct the change management that is required to be able to drive the adoptions. Think about end-to-end enterprise capabilities. Don't think about silo, or organization or product focus. Think of interconnection and scale. And think about ecosystem. Become the orchestrator of this ecosystem. It is very important. So with this, I want to hand over to Arnab.
Thank you, Loic. That's really inspiring. And having worked with Loic for the last 12 months, I think you can get the sense of his passion, that he's on a mission here, right? And just to bring it back home, I think what we're talking about is an opportunity. It's an opportunity. What you just heard is a story at Novartis, but this is an opportunity for all of us as business leaders, in terms of how we can bring artificial intelligence to automate, to augment, to innovate, and create the new possibilities, right? And that's what I call as the superpowers. We can actually enable that, right? And for doing that, I think what Loic mentioned, right? It's about how you untrap the value that is there within your organization's data that you are buying today, data that you are generating today, the data that your customers are talking about you, right? How do you get the value out of that? And then how do you bring scale into these solutions that are powered by data? I think that's extremely important. How do you do it across 20 different markets, as I mentioned earlier? And how you do it in a different way, both from a technology perspective, both from a capability build-up perspective, like you talked about the ecosystem and partnerships, right? How do you do that? And this is a new way of thinking, right? And that creates new opportunities that you can discover, with your ecosystem partners, right? And then that creates new possibilities for people, for employees within the organization from a career perspective, and even for the business. And that means that it creates a new culture, a new way of working, so that we can continuously do different things, and we can do things differently, back to my earlier message. And that's the opportunity for all of us. This is the people, each of you in the room, I think you are going to make it happen. And today we just heard inspiration from Loic. I'm sure each of you have your own stories that, we'll be looking forward to. So with that, I think we have probably a couple of minutes for questions, 3 minutes for questions. So it's now your time. Thank you.
If you have a question, you can just throw your hand up, and we will bring you a microphone. Don't be shy. Okay, I'll ask a question to break the ice. So we heard from your colleague at Accenture this morning about some of the regulatory challenges that are involved in big data. You seem very optimistic. Where does your optimism come from?
Well, first and foremost, I'm optimistic by nature, so that comes from there. But having said that, I think we all as individuals have seen a lot of changes in our own personal lives, right? The way we are sharing information today in the social media, for example, at a personal level. 10 years back, we were not comfortable doing that. And the same thing is transcending back into the corporate world, as Loic mentioned, that we in corporate world have so much of data available today, and it's a shame if you're not able to realize the full value of the data, not just for commercial benefit, but for the benefit of the society and for our customers, right? And I think that is going to prevail, and it's going to drive the change. And you need a catalyst. That's where we have people like Loic who are being a catalyst within Novartis to drive that. And then that has, as I mentioned, it has a multiplier effect. And once that multiplier effect starts, it creates a change.
Like you're the catalyst at Novartis. Give the people in the room a word of advice if they want to be the catalyst in their organization. What's your nugget of wisdom?
I will say, culture first, data second, and AI third. Think about the culture and apply AI to data. So I think this morning Moak was talking about, data is important to AI. I think you cannot apply AI without data. So culture, data, and AI. That would be my free advice.
There you have it. The wisdom from these two guys, Novartis and Accenture. Thanks for making your people available to us. Let's get a big round of applause for our speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.